England. I won the driver to Europe end of 78. So I went to drive in England, the guidance of Mike White and Gavin Henderson, because they had driven for Delta. Beginning of 79, I went over. And, you know, I didn't know that you really needed a lot of money in those days. I just thought talent would take you there. And once I got chatting and I realized, hey, hang on, these guys, they don't talk nicely to you if you haven't got money. So I just said to them, oh, guys, we are in South Africa. There is a problem. We can't move money out. But, hey, my dad owns a farm. So, you know, we can arrange things. So they said, well, now they thought Yakans are with lots of money. So they gave me a try. And straight away I was the quickest that they'd had in their car behind Mike White. I was matching Mike White's times. And he was the BAL champion. And in places I was quicker than him. So they thought, yes, this is great. And I went racing. And my very first race, I think I finished 5th or 6th. In England in a slick car which I'd never driven. And because of my achievements, they said to me, listen, what we'd like you to do is you go and test. So I went testing at Brands Hatch with the team, and John Surtees was testing his Formula 1 car. And I overtook him going through paddock and caused such a stir. How can you overtake a F1 car? What? It's like, you know, it's just, I didn't realize, I thought he was just playing the fool, you know.
Mm.
But I mean, he was already quite old. And then 5 laps later, a guy waved me to go through, and I went through, but he turned the same way as he waved. So I took the wheels off the car. Went back. I said, can we have some money? I said, I'll try and get some out, but I need to get this car sorted. Anyway, eventually I said, I've been telling stories, we don't have money. I don't have money.
Yeah.
So I said, but I'll prepare to work for the team as a mechanic, as a driver. I was the only one who had a truck driver license. I'll do anything. So they said, okay, they've got a contract for their truck to move furniture around the country, based from Brighton up to Liverpool to Manchester, all around. And the guy that did it for him, he would do like a 3-day trip to do it. And I could get from Brighton to Liverpool and back in 1 day. But I was getting paid for 3. So they said, oh, this is interesting. I said, yeah, well, I don't have time to waste, you know. I leave at 4. These guys leave at 8 after breakfast. I get there when they open. If they don't want to start offloading, I know what's got to go out. I'd start taking it out. And the guys got to know me and straight away moved me there, then go to Manchester. And I was doing my round trip in a day. So a guy called Don Manley, also a racing driver, he took quite a shine to us. And he had a tyre company with Bridgestone, and he employed me to deliver tyres. So which was a 2-day trip. I could do furnitures on a Monday, tyres Tuesday, furniture Wednesday, tyres Thursday and Friday, furniture again. Saturday go testing with the guys. And what they thought would take about 4 or 5 months to pay off, I sorted out within about a month and a half, all my debt. Which, you know, in relative terms, it was a lot of money, but not such a much. I think it was about £8,000, but I was getting paid well to do that. And then I was invited to do a drive because I'd made enough money to race at Snetterton. And we went out, and I hadn't raced or driven anything for quite a while because of paying off debt. Within the first session, I was on the pace with Simon Kirkby and David Leslie and guys that were quick. And the Hans, that was a European race, it was the last of the season, and old Hans Dijkstra was there, and he took one look, and then he saw me save a car by not crashing it. We came into the pits, we bled the brakes, and the mechanic forgot to put the one. And I was thinking, because it's real soft. Anyway, I went out, first lap, pump, not too bad. Second lap, she said, no, look, you can go. So down the long straight before that, S into there, floorboards. So I thought, okay, what do we do here? Spun it, stopped that far from the barrier. And the head of society shops, Hans Dijkstra, came to me after and said, yes, that was impressive. I'll tell you what, I've got 2 cars. Find your way to me in Holland and I'll give you a drive. Don't ask where. I think Holland, it's a little spot.
Yeah.
You said it's in Harlem. So I said, okay. So I waited until the end of the year and I managed to buy a ticket to get across. And like a clown, I didn't really think. I thought, it must be a small place, there must be a big garage or so.
Yeah.
And I get off this train after being lost with the train for about 2 hours, ticked off because I couldn't afford to come back again. I mean, I'd used the money I had. And now I'm thinking, yes, I'm in trouble. What was the name of the company? Where are they based in those days? So I'm walking along the road in Amsterdam from the station, and out of the blue I see old Gavin Henderson. He had a feeling that I might be coming and he came looking for me. And that was it. Hey, I go meet Hans and he said, oh, so you made it, Jay? He said, yes. Okay, it was winter, I didn't come home, it was snowing and not lekker. I said, look, I haven't got a place for you to stay now. I said, that's fine. Where is there space? He said, no, I can put a bed there in the garage where the 2 cars are. So I said, sure. If it's warm. No, it was central heating.
Yeah.
I said, okay, so I moved into the garage. There was a little washroom around the corner. And at night I was working on the cars, and in the day working on the cars. Their number 1 driver, a guy called Ron Kloot, was a real prima donna. Anyway, so that's how it started in Holland. Enjoyed racing, and it was a lot different back then, you know. I'd made a lot of friends because of what I could do. And so then the season starts March. We go testing, and the car's quick, and I adapt to it very quickly. Now I've already got Delta, the factory, now are supporting me, even though I'm in the old car. So we now come to the very first race, and I qualify near the front. Hey, and these guys are presto, this I can drive, you know. And all the locals now suddenly take a shine to me, and I'll run full of nonsense. Anyway, race, I finished about 4th and he finished 7th. So I got hauled over the coals for not abiding by team orders. I said, what team orders?
Yeah.
I said, you know, if the guy's coming first or second, or I'm first and he's second, and I must let him go, that's I'll do.
Yes.
But you don't race for team orders way down there.
No.
Anyway, became friction, but I was still doing his car. So it came to Easter 1980, and we go to Zandvoort, and my old man and old lady have saved up money to come watch me race, but I had now decided I'm just going to have a holiday with them. I'm sick and tired of these nonsense. But they came just after the race that we had at Zandvoort, and we went into practice. I put the car on pole by more than a half a second. The old car, the old engine, old everything. So then Ron says, no, you've done something wrong here. I think I've told you to put the wrong engine in. So I said, what do you want me to do? This is Friday afternoon. He says, now I want you to change the engine. So I said, okay, nobody will help me. That night, I spent the night, I took the engines out, swapped them around. We go to official practice on Saturday morning, and I'm a second and a half quicker than him with the old engine. So now he wants the engine back. I said, why don't you take the car? No, that car's no good. Anyway, I said, look, Ron, I know what your rule is. I must just come finish behind you if you're leading or winning. But he qualified 9th or 10th. So I'm on pole. I rush out, put my hand up, going past the pits on the first lap. Let everybody go past, and I sit behind Ron now, but right on his toe. And he's getting all nervous and upset because of this. So I thought, I don't care. 4 laps to go, the front gap, that pulled probably 5 seconds on us. I thought, that's enough, they can fire me, they can do what they like. Overtook him, shot through, and I managed to win the race. After being 5 seconds off the pace, but I knew that car was that quick. Then it hit the fan. And I'm this, and I'm that. And then my folks are off. I said, okay. I'll get called into Hans's office. I said, Hans, I don't want to talk to you. Just give me enough money. I'm going to have a holiday with my folks now. And you fly me home. I was earning quite nice money. He said, no, 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 relax. I said, I can't relax. You are barking up the wrong tree. I come to race, I come to win races.
Yes.
I didn't realize I'm a number 2 driver, even though I had a number 2 car. So anyway, he says to me, just relax. Please relax. I said, I can't. I'm really annoyed. And if you carry on like this, it can get nasty. He said, no, no, let's go for a drive. Get in the car. His fancy Opel, whatever the top of the range was, and we go to the ABN bank. Walk inside, and he goes like this. That's yours. Not money, but euro checks.
Cheap.
Like 10,000 euro. Well, in those days it was gulden, but almost the same as a euro. I said, what must I do with that? He says, no, what you must now do is use that to go over and fetch your new car. I said, what new car? I said, what new car? He'd ordered me a brand new car at Delta,
Sure.
and my dad and mom were arriving that afternoon.
Yeah.
He'd arranged me for a transporter, and he'd spoken to Sam Nelson, and Sam Nelson always had a top engine. And that top engine, guess where it came?
Into
To me. Over there with my folks now, thinking it's the most amazing thing that can ever happen. Get there, we've got now our own team. They buy me a big Ford Transit and a truck, close it in, we fix it up, and it's called BASIL MANN Racing and all the other nonsense. We've got spare engines, we've got spare bodywork, spare suspension, fully kit. Now I go for my very first race to Spa, and I hadn't even tested the car, hadn't even shaken it down. And Spa's not an easy track, it's like 8 Ks. Anyway, we got it going, and I think I qualified about 4th or 5th, and then it rained, and it was my first time ever in that kind of rain. And I finished 3rd or 4th, which wasn't bad. Hans was very happy, he was very impressed. So I said, no, that's the best I can do. So then we went Zolder, and we misjudged on the tyres. They only had a set of the old spec tyres,
Okay.
which were pretty well worn. And I think, yeah, it was one of those amazing qualifications, on, off, but eventually got pole. So I get the car on pole, and now I'm leading on a warm-up lap, and I come around that long Zolder sweep, and as I'm halfway through it, there's a little river, and I'm in full taps, and I hit that straight into the fences. So I couldn't start that race. Anyway, the car wasn't that badly damaged. We fixed it up, we then got it ready, and we went to Jyllandsring in Denmark. And that was around about my birthday, so what was I turning 25? So we go to Jyllandsring, yeah, and it's one of those little Mickey Mouse tracks, but I now had the tyres and everything. And it was a short, tricky circuit. It took us a little while to get used to it, but I got used to it. What should happen just before the race starts? A downpour. No, it didn't bother me. Now I had a feel for us. Hey, and I took off and I almost lapped the entire field. That was my first European win in a European race. And from then on, I just kept on winning. It was amazing. That car was having my old man with me. I mean, been messed around for the first half of the season. I eventually finished 2nd in the European Championships. It was won by Tommy Burns, who became quite well-known from Van Diemen. And I became quite good friends. And he had already said, I want you in my car. Because at that stage, Delta was petering off.
Yeah.
They weren't building cars anymore. So I went over. And I was sitting there, and he said to me, you know, as much as I would love you to have it, he says, this kid came here with a briefcase full of money. I said, really? He said, it's Ayrton. And then he was Ayrton the Senna de Silva. But he changed, he got rid of the Silva. And then he said, what must I do? I said, well, money talks, eh? And that was the start. Senna actually said to him, the race that I should have beaten him, I was driving for Zach Speed, not allowed to use my name at that stage. It was just before I was coming home, and that Zach Speed was a rocket. But the suspension wasn't that great, and I was gone. And coming out Skaflot and then going down the main straight, in those days, the straight was just a slight Skaflot, it was called, corner. It wasn't like now. And I came through there, and Senna was right. Yeah, right there, and the left front wheel came off. And I'm driving, the car's scraping him, and across the line just behind him. And he afterwards said, "My friend, yeah, that was a race and a half." And he was driving for Van Diemen. It's intense, but you know, I'll tell you a little story. We went to Salton to test, and I was going to get his Formula 2000 because he was now going to move to Formula 3. So when I went there, Mark Fulmer Taylor said to me, "You're fooling yourself going to test that car." I said, "Why?" He said, "Why do you think they've asked you to come on Tuesday?" I said, "I don't know." He says, "You think you're going to get the car the way Senna drove it?" I said, "I hope so." I said, "It won't be like that." And when I drove it, I was a second slower. But then he showed me. They took the engine, they put this engine in, put that in. But Senna was quick, I mean. But when first time I went there, I was leading the European Championships, and he was just coming up to Formula 2000. So that year I was now busy being banned because of being South African. And I was sitting in a little place called Red Hook or Red House, right in Snetterton. And he comes up to me and says, "Hey man, I'm coming for you." But in a joking way.
Yeah.
But he could all have broken English. And we chatted a bit. And then I went to drive my first race of champions at Brands Hatch. I think it was 1984. I'm depressed now because the car wasn't right. And of course, Roger Taylor was there to make sure I got a different engine. And I see this Oakie in a Mercedes coming and doing a handbrake turn by me. And I thought, who's this clown? It's all Senna. He jumps up. "Hey man, look here. £1 million check was given to him to drive for John Player Special." And she finished second in the European Championships. It was won by Tommy Burns. Oh, that's Tommy Burns. And that there is Spa. And that there is Chris Nissen. That's Ron Clute. And that was me lying fourth at that stage. Tommy Burns was okay. Yeah, he didn't bother. But of course, if you show him you're less fearless than him, then you got respect.
Yeah,
and that was with Tommy and me. We came together once, and that was I got stuck in the pub. We used to have what they call as a meter beer, and it's a meter long, full of beers, and then we'd have a beer race to see who could do it. Then don't have a running race outside. He couldn't beat me, and he was upset because he ran for Ireland. He was a runner, and I could outrun him. Oh, that was at 2000. I think it was Hans-Herald Frentzen or one of their cars, and they weren't doing too well, so I got invited by Marlboro to test the car. And I was quick in it, and then I was told, "No, you're South African, you're not allowed to drive in anything here." And that was me. And Marlboro was on the list. In 1981, Hugo Boss only sponsored 3 people. One guy was called Nicky Lauda, the other guy was called Alain Prost, and me was the third one. Levi Strauss sponsored us. Jeans and clothing. K2 skis. And of course society shops. I think racing around the Nürburgring, I got the lap record there still. I was actually on a par with the Formula 3s around there in my Formula 2000. But let me tell you a story about Nürburgring. In those days there was Winkelhock, Manfred Winkelhock, and Klaus Nedwitsch, all the German guys, and they used to make some money by taking people on hot laps, and it was 10 marks per hot lap. So I said to Hans, I said, "Oh, just give me 1,000 if you can. I want to go and do 100 laps." So I stood gracefully in my queue waiting, and eventually they started to know me. And I must have done, before I even put a wheel on that track by myself, about 50 laps, at least, in cars with them. Eventually, they just let me sit in the front. Other people must get in the back. And I learned so much by doing that. I can't believe this. It is just so amazing, you know. And of course, when there was nobody and they took me, then they put their foot down and went quite a lot quicker. And then you might have heard of a guy called Slim Borgert. He was the drummer for ABBA. And he wanted me to show him because he's going to drive a touring car there. But he knew me from when I raced in Dad, Sweden. Can I help him around the track? So I said, sure. And he had a 2002, but quite a fast one. So I said, sure, let me take you, you know. Now I'm just getting the laps in before I'm even driving my own car, you know. Yeah. And he kept saying, but this is unbelievable. Now left-hand drive. And I must have done 20 laps with that. I mean, it's 27k, so it's a lot of. And then towards the end of the day, he said, let's just do one more, and then he wants to drive. I said, sure. She said, but this time don't hold back. I said, sure. So after about 13 k's, you go around the mountain. You go down a long dip, up, and then around the mountain. And I was full 220, 230, holding it, just a little drip, but comfortable. And the track was wet. And I hit this stuff at about 220 with slicks on. I said to him, don't panic. And I thought, geez, if I hit this barrier straight on. So as I'm going, I hook the clutch in, and I get the thing turned, and I hold it against the barrier. So now the right-hand side is running down the barrier. We ran for about half a k. Because it's grass on the inside, no track. Eventually it stops. I said to him, yes, says, Slim, are you okay? He says, no, okay. I said, yeah. So now he tries to get out. Can't get out. So I pull the car forward. By running down the barrier, it welded the doors closed.
No way.
Welded them closed. Get back to the pits. He says, no, the suspension's not bad. I said, yeah. We looked at it, a little bit bent, we straightened it, hit it straight. So I said, okay, you go. So I drove with him to show him, to help him. And then, of course, then there was our practice, and flipped, I was just gone. First time around that track, nobody could come near me. As I had done so many laps, I could close my eyes and drive it like I knew Kyle Army. What do you call them? Parabellas, where you jump in like that. So I would use those. Everybody else drove on the outside. So I lifted the car suspension up by an inch so that it wouldn't bottom out through there. Because everybody didn't want to go through there for the bottoming. But that little bit didn't sacrifice a lot on the longer straights. So I got to know exactly where to put the car at any time. I mean, we were doing like, I think 27 k's, about 6 minutes, 5.5, 6 minutes, which was quite quick. Just on 200. Maybe on my fifth title, I won for the first time. You remember Dennis Temple? I won in his Tempest, the first guy ever to win in a Tempest at Valcourt for him. And then I won in Mike's car and Peter Haller's car. I drove 4 or 5 different cars in that series. At RP21, we then fixed it up, and I started winning a lot of races. Matt Kaiser came to me and he said they had
I researched that.
Rolly Nofka won the championship in it. Matt won it in that car. It was the Ray. Pro Racing. Correct, yeah. So I said, yeah, no. Fine. And with that Ray, that year, I didn't lose a race. But he said, I want you to drive it on one condition. On the first lap, when you go past the pits, you must wave goodbye. Towards my fifth title, I think it was, I was just driving for fun because I'd already started with the Formula GTI. I was just driving Fords, whoever wanted us to have a driving. So that's when I drove Dennis's car at Welcome, the red one, the red Tempest. Yes, I've never seen a man that happy, because that was designed around an old Merlin, but Dennis changed quite a lot on it.
Yes.
And Dennis was quick, but he couldn't, he didn't get to where we could get to. I'll tell you what, that night when we had some, because he didn't really drink, but he had some beers that night. He was so happy. It was a nice car, it was quick, very aerodynamic. It was for Volkswagen, and of course I was the Ford champion. And being connected with Volkswagen and GTR introducing it, the people at VW knew me. And they spoke to Volkswagen, and Paul Krause said, okay, well, we will enter 2 cars. We'll enter a car and then see later on. So at first myself and, what's his name, Claudio Piazzamusa.
Okay.
And then Roger Taylor got involved and he took over. But before he took over, he had the old Matador with an engine that was like a V8. Because they went to race and Anthony was still 15, they wouldn't let him drive. So I raced that car in Bosch colours. I broke the lap record by about a second and a half. It just disappeared. That thing was so quick. So Paul Cruiser was very impressed. So he bought another car for me, a new Matador, Ray, and they gave Anthony my old Ray. They got all the trick stuff.
Okay.
So that year Anthony was flying. And then of course Van der Linders came in with those, Sean's engines were miles ahead of anybody, But really a fast engine. The only time I could beat them was in the rain, in the dry. I was nowhere.
Sure.
So I finished second to them, but by then it was, I was already well in 35, 36, so I wasn't really that motivated. I was motivated, but not as much because I couldn't compete with when I drove their cars, they couldn't catch me, but when I drove my car, I was nowhere.
Yeah.
And look, Sean wasn't, and Anthony were both good drivers. They weren't slack.
Hold. Sean van der Linde off. Basil Mann's going to win it. Round they come. Mann first, Blankfield second, and Michael Briggs will be third. And in fourth place will be Sean van der Linde. Great race. Well done to Basil Mann, and have certainly given us some great entertainment.
Wel, hierdie unieke formule van Volkswagen Golf die engine.
68 here. I was a petrol jockey. I ran around with a petrol. My uncle worked for Shell. He knew how much I loved racing, so I would run around with these jumps for these guys. And we serviced the Lotus team, Graham Hill and Jim Clark. And they came to our little Boma where Shell had all the drums and all of that there, and they would come in and sit and have a beer with the guys. They came and parked both of them. Graham Hill finished second, Jim Clark first. And Jim said to me, see you admiring this guy. I said, ooh, I really hope one day, he says, come, help me get in the car. And he sat there and nobody took photos. I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
So, and then he goes and dies. That upset me the most. I'm sitting in his car and not even a month later he's dead, or 2 months later. John Love to me was the gentleman of all gentlemen. All of them. John Love always. Whenever somebody, would you like me to pose for you again, my boy? Laddie, hey laddie. 1967 he should have won. He was in a Cooper Climax, 49, and the other was he didn't have enough fuel. He had to do a splash and dash. And he did it on the second last lap, and he was, in those days it was too slow to be fueling.
Yes.
He had a 10-second gap, which was, I'll tell you what kind of gentleman this man was. I went to drive in the Bulawayo Open, Bulawayo Grand Prix. It was, but it wasn't a Grand Prix. And we went up in Formula Fords. And I was testing at the Bulawayo circuit. I don't know if you've ever been there.
No.
And somebody pulled out of the pits as I was coming past and we collided, and I broke the front suspension on my car. And I'm thinking, yeah, but we've been all this way for nothing. And John Love walked up, said, let's load your car, we'll fix it. I said, oh, John, Uncle John, we can't. He says, so he helped us load it, took it to his workshop in Bulawayo, where he still got the car that he went through the barrier with, that Formula 1, and his head was stuck here. He's got that barrier and that car there. And it's just memorabilia. Let's start. And he goes and he cuts this, that, and he a good welder. And of course him and my old man having a few beers and talking, and he and my dad fixed my car to go racing the next day. And as a reward I won the race for him.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've ever been on TV, television TV, 1977. Got to be quite friendly with Gilles Villeneuve. The first time I ever drove in that Formula Ford. And I took all these Ian Schechter and Tony Martin and Bill Brack and Gilles Villeneuve out the pits there. So I thought, shit. I asked them, I said, no, they've got to warm their tyres up. I said, that's a good idea. Now, I didn't realize that with big treaded tyres, we didn't know about skimming. I'll go out the pit, left, right, through the pit. They came with that lock that we had. They said, no, man, you must get those tyres skimmed. I said, no, I didn't know that. Yeah. So then thereafter, I had nice tyre sponsorship and brand new, skimmed them down to 4 mil, 2 mil. Let's do a race, a nice car. Straight down to earth. Zandvoort. I'd won my race in the Formula 2000s, and he was driving for Ferrari, and the wheel came off when he hit Andretti or somebody, I can't remember. He drove back the pits with that wheel dragging. Axle, remember it's locked, and he drove back on that. Now, fix that, I want to go.